So I get a call from the federal government, Justice Department, and says, Ms. Thompson, um, we are just surprised that you are allowing one of your staff members to take your work to apply to open up a halfway house in Richmond. And I'm like, oh,
Welcome to another great episode of Dre and Smiley, The Inner Circle.
I live in Tampa, and we have our guest here today. She's from St. Pete, Florida, which is right across the bay. And I just get excited when a prior podcast refers another podcast guest to us. So Dr. Stephanie referred us to Dr. Loretta Caldwell Thompson, who goes by Dr. T. So let me read this bio from Dr. T, and then we'll get into asking her about her amazing journey. So, Dr. T's journey is not just a testament to her resilience and determination, but also a colorful tapestry woven with moments of joy and laughter. From her bustling upbringing in West Baltimore to her adventures as an executive director in the nation's capital, she encountered everything from boardroom battles to sneaky ideal swipers with a spirit that refuses to be dimmed. Despite the challenges, she racked up awards like nobody's business and even earned the title the Living Management Doctor. Her consultancy, the Living Leadership Lab, isn't just about transformational leadership. It's about infusing some fun and vibrancy into the corporate world. Whether she's shaking up things in St. Pete or dropping wisdom nuggets every Wednesday, Dr. T's journey is a delightful mix of empowerment, justice, and a splash of humor, reminding us all that even in the toughest times, there's always room for a good laugh and various adventures. Well, you're at the right spot, Dr. T, because we love to laugh.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So please, if we can just start off from the beginning, tell us about the early days and how you ended up to be where you are from Baltimore to St. Pete.
hey, first of all, thank you all. Thank you both for having me. As I told Dr. Lee, that being on a podcast was one of my bucket list type of things to do. So it is great, like you say, when another person can do something to help you fulfill a wish, a dream, a journey, etc. So I wanted to thank him and thank both of you all for having me on your podcast. I tell everybody that my mother is one of 14 sisters and brothers. And her latter brothers and sisters were more like older aunts and uncles for me. And so during that time, my mother was the only one that went to college. So everyone expected different things from her. And I think that expectation trickled down to me. Okay. So when I was in high school in Baltimore, University of Pennsylvania, an Ivy League school um, came to the high school, and they wanted to recruit some of the students that were in my class. At that time, I'm telling you, I really did not know anything about Ivy League schools. I knew I wanted to go to college. I knew that my father wanted me to go to University of Maryland because that's what he could afford, and that's where the path was supposed to take. But it was something about what they said about Penn and the ability that I could do something different. I wanted to take that chance. And I think that kind of ideology has pervaded in me ever since then. So I got accepted as independent. They gave me full scholarship. So it was nothing my father could say. So I went to University of Pennsylvania. And then there, during that period of time, it was only a small number of Afro Americans that were attending Penn. And we became such a close knit group, so that we all aspired to ourselves to make our parents real proud that we were going to do something innovative, something different. So then it was like, okay. So after this, I want to get my advanced degrees because there I felt would give me the type of notoriety, it would authenticate me in this genre of different people that did not look like me. Okay. So from there, I went to, but I still wanted more of a Black experience in my life. So I went to Howard University to get my master's degree. And I just loved that experience. And then from there, I went to the University of Maryland and then to Nova Southeastern to pursue my doctorate degree, probably about 15 years later, because I still wanted that piece of paper. I still wanted the ability to kind of authenticate the research work and what I felt I was capable of doing to a wider audience. So that's kind of the short version of my journey from Baltimore to Philadelphia to the nation's capital and now to the sunshine state of Florida.
Yeah.
Wow. And tell me, what is your master in and what is your PhD in?
Yes, my master's degree is in urban studies. And again, that just speaks to my desire to, want to learn different things, want to do different things in a connection to the community. But at the same time, I've always been curious on how people respond in different situations and the reasons why they do what they do. So then that's and additionally, I wanted to always see how I could help people take things up to another level. I was never satisfied of just being status quo. How can we take it up to another level? So then that's where organizational relationships came in. That's where leadership came in. So my doctorate is in organizational leadership and development. So those are the pillars that kind of led me toward that area of discipline.
So, Dr. T,
Yeah.
you had a heck of a journey. Smiley mentioned boardroom battles, idea swipers. Tell me about your experience. What was that like?
You know what, when I look at that and when I've been asked to talk about that, I do have to smile, but only because I know what the end result has been. But it wasn't a smiley, excuse the expression, a type of journey initially. When I moved to Washington, D.C., and I started getting involved, my background at that time was criminology, and I wanted to deal with female criminals. Again, something always different. And at that time, and even now, the issue around female criminality doesn't carry its kind of weight that it should. That it should. So when I went to Howard, they encouraged me to, be on boards, um, be a member of board of directors of things that were in my field and of my interest. So I became a board member of the only halfway house that they had in Washington, D.C. for female offenders. So they were happy to have me. And mind you, it was a predominantly white, male oriented board that had jurisdiction over this halfway house of female offenders that were predominantly women of Black and brown color. Initially, they didn't have any problems with me being on the board because I helped with fundraising, I helped with grant writing, those type of palatable things that did not require any conflict, I guess. So then something happened to the executive director, and we had to terminate her. So in between there, the board asked me to serve in an interim capacity as the director. I'm like, sure. And mind you, I am only like 24, 25. At that point, I always thought that you had to get the degrees, then you get the practical experience, and then you moved into senior management or to the C suite. So it's like, oh, sure, I'll do that. And what they did not know, and probably I did not know, is that the position resonated itself so much with me, so that I just got entwined in it, started doing different things, got additional contracts for service delivery. So they were really pleased with all of that. So after about 6 months, they said, okay, we're going to put it out, but you can apply too. So I did, and they accepted me. Okay, this is
Wow.
great. But
Yeah.
where the drama started going into is when I wanted to increase capacity. Okay. Like I said, we were the only halfway house for female offenders. The women were coming from Alderson in West Virginia and Danbury, Connecticut. So there was always room for more women. And as you know, women really benefit from residential services to get them situated, to get back into the throes of, living. I went after a federal contract that dealt with female offenders. And it's like, I was getting pushback from the board because that meant we had to get another facility. So getting another facility meant that we had to engage other people other than the criminal justice system, to help us with that. Because as a small nonprofit agency, we didn't have capital monies to put to buy another building, to rent another building. We needed a business company or person to come in and give us a latchkey facility, and that they would get repaid through the lease notes that we would pay them. And they did not believe that I could get that. And I must say, throughout this conversation, you will hear me say if it wasn't for God, it would not have happened, but he put these people in my life, and they were able to come to the table to provide the funding to get us this latch key type of facility. So we started growing by leaps and bounds. I mean, leaps and bounds. So then the scrutiny of the board began to be a little bit more, what should I say, stifling. Okay. Because typically, as the board, you are supposed to be over the governance of the agency, not the service delivery, unless something is going wrong or something like that. So I had no escape. So there was no public attention to what we were doing. So, but then it started getting tight. And so it was like, okay, to me, this is not going to work. This is not going to grow to how I want it to be. So I had to be intentional on how to, quote unquote, navigate the board. And there was one clause in the board's policies that had term limits in that they never abided by. Okay. So when I saw that, as well as some other people that had law experience, that was a small way, a very tiptoe way of removing some of the people that were
Mm,
naysayers because their time was over. So
mm.
when their time was over, I would announce before the board meeting, the 2 months prior, that so and so's time is going up, and we're going to present them with a plaque. And woody, woo, woody, woo. I mean, it was like,
Brilliant.
oh, again, you know, contracts. You really have to read it. And when it's not challenged, everything is okay. But when there's something else going on, those finer lines can either break or make you. Okay.
Mm, mm.
So then therefore those naysayers begin to go out, and then I got this transformational board, and we are good to go. So the goal was that we were going to have halfway houses up and down the East Coast. And what was our experience was there was these group of white guys who got into that federal government game. They had established halfway houses up the East Coast, and the other one established halfway houses for men on the West Coast. Look,
Wow.
one had a plane and the other one had a boat. And I'm like,
Whoa.
that's what we're going to do. But
Yeah.
unlike them, we're going to make sure that we provide the right services for the women so that it's a win-win situation.
Hmm.
So, opportunity came for us to finally go outside of DC. RFP came out for a halfway house in Richmond, Virginia. Okay, so this is it. This is going to be our first time. This is what we're going to do. Okay. So I get a call from the federal government, Justice Department, and says, Miss Thompson, because I was married then. Miss Thompson, um, we are just surprised that you are allowing one of your staff members to take your word to open up a halfway house or to apply to open up a halfway house in Richmond. And I'm like, oh, I see. And see, I never want other people to know that there is infighting at home, whatever that's going to
Right.
be. And I
Right.
definitely don't want, and if you excuse my expression, people that don't look like me think
Hmm.
that people that look like me
Hmm.
are arguing.
Hmm.
And so I said, so how did you find out about this? And she says, well, we are reading the proposal, and I had a name, I had these names for all the facilities that I wanted to do. So they must have didn't right now, the technology would have picked it up, but
Right.
they missed it in one of the chapters. So then and then plus the feds knew how I wrote and et cetera, et cetera. That's why
Hmm.
they felt I gave her permission to do it.
Hmm.
Okay. So I'm like, oh, okay. So we hang up. I go out because in the facility. I asked, because I knew who the staff person was at that time.
Right.
Asked them to come in.
They were still working for you.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Oh,
And
wow.
did not say nothing. Their family had come up with a non. They had filed for to become a nonprofit agency. Had the structure all into place and everything. I was just flabbergasted. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I brought her in to say, I'm not going to express the words that I used at that
Yeah.
time because
Yeah. Yeah.
God would not be pleased with it. But I had something to say. And her rationale was that they were learning from the teacher and that they thought that the teacher would be proud of them. I was livid. I was livid. Of course,
Yeah.
we parted ways.
Hmm.
No, I did not legally come against them to do anything.
Hmm.
But that just had such a sour taste in my mouth from then
Hmm.
and even to now,
Right.
how
Right. Right.
to protect my intellectual
Property.
property.
Let me ask you a question,
And
Dr. T. Can I ask you a
yes,
question? And there's so many nuggets I'm getting from this experience. Um, a couple questions. One is, at this time, you're 24, 25, 26, perhaps. You were really resourceful and creative in a couple different ways. Let's start with the first that comes to mind. You realize that this board is not functioning as well as it could. You had the option of saying, you know what, I'm out of here, or stomping your feet, or one of those things. Instead, you had the ingenious idea of, let me read these contracts and let me celebrate them as they depart, because I realize in these contracts their time is up. And then this idea of, the world doesn't need to know what's happening in my house, in my organization when there's disagreements. All those types of things. Where does that come from? Is that
I think that comes from my parents and my father. I always tell people, my father, we were two-parent household, and it was just my brother and I. And my father was one. His perspective was, if he saw something and he wanted it, he was going to go out and hustle to get it. I mean, he had his main job, but then there was other things that he would do to get us whatever it is extra that we might have wanted. Okay. My mother's perspective was, and his name was Appel Caldwell Jr. My mother's perspective was, now, Junior, we have to plan this. We'll save X amount of money a month and woo, and then we will be able to get it. And sometimes he acquiesced into that strategy. But then there was times when, hey, we don't know how long we're gonna be here. And mind you, he died when he was 56 years old. Okay.
Oh,
So
wow.
only in retrospect
Yeah.
can I even appreciate even more his philosophy, because had he not done that earlier in his life, he would not have had those experiences
Mm.
that mother would have waited for us to slowly do that. But
Yeah.
she was very methodical and she was a planner. I mean, I still have my planning books. I mean, I shouldn't even tell you guys that I still have my diaries point when I was in high school. I mean, because I love
Wow.
journaling and I love planning, and that was how I was going to get things to achieve things. I love reading. Like I said, my grandparents are from South Carolina.
Mhm.
My grandfather picked cotton and those types of experiences. And I
Mhm.
was one of the oldest grandchildren. But because I love to read, my grandmother would say, "No, Loretta don't have to do no cooking and cleaning. She's into those books. Let her stay into those books."
All
And I didn't
right.
have no
All right.
problem when they're out there. Mind you, we didn't have these automatic wash machines and stuff. Okay, oh no, or wash the dishes. We didn't have a dishwasher or
Right,
anything.
right.
But Loretta is reading, and because I told you, my mother was the only college grad among all of them at that time. My
Uh,
grandparents really understood the meaning of getting a good education in order
mm,
to advance your status in life. So one half of my response to what you asked me is really the perspective that my parents brought to us
mm,
to achieve different things, experience different things in life. Okay. The other experience was being in a white dominated environment of Penn that I had no knowledge of prior to that. Okay. None whatsoever. I came from an inner city black school. Yeah, I was in a little higher classroom level, but that level did not even match the level that the white kids that came to Penn were in. Okay. So I watched how they networked, bonded with each other to get what you want. And
yeah.
I was pissed off about it initially because I didn't know how to handle it back then. You would go over the professor's house and have the proverbial wine and cheese and do
Mm,
these intellectual conversations type stuff. Loretta, the class before me, had just championed to have a black dorm. It was called the W.E. Du Bois House. So that was
ah,
where we could go for our residential situations. So it's like when I saw the housing thing that came in the packet, and I saw the Dubois house, it's like, oh yeah, I want to be with black people. I want to be with black people.
yeah.
So I'm at the Dubois house. So one of my professors asked me one time, it said, Loretta, how come where do you live? And I'm like, I didn't say the black dorm. I said, I live in the Dubois house. The Dubois house. Why are you there? I said, I beg your pardon. He says, why are you there? You need to be in these other dorms with your other classmates. That's going to be the future bank presidents and something something and something something.
Wow.
I was livid, okay,
Yeah, yeah.
because it's like number one, I got in the pen the same way they got in the pen.
Mhm.
My black students, and only now I could say Barack Obama, and so, we can be bank presidents and presidents of the United States. I
Yeah,
speak all of
yeah,
it now. And
yeah.
trust me, even today, that small core of blacks that I went to school with, the referrals they had given me for my job,
Mm,
the accolades they give me, when being self-employed, when it goes down and you got to go
yeah.
back up, they're
That
there
network.
when I go down and
It's the
sick.
network.
You know what I mean? So on that note, those negative experiences propelled me to do what you just asked me about. So I
Nice.
would say the
Nice.
experiences I've had, unbeknown to me then, as
Okay.
well as the experiences from my parents. And then, yeah, and then, like I said earlier, having my mother having 13 sisters and brothers and being the oldest granddaughter and love school, everybody just kind of helped me with that, supported me with that, and that became a blessing in and of itself.
Dr. T, I just have a comment, but then I'm going to get to the question. But the man who raised me was one of 22.
Oh,
And
wow.
at his funeral, when I spoke at his funeral, I met other siblings of his that were way older than he was because I think he was 15th out of the 22. So there was so many of them. But when he passed, they all came. And it's just amazing when you think about those big families of the past where I thought my grandfather was my mother's grandfather was one of eight, and they're like,
Mm-hmm.
we're a small family. I was like, what do
Mm-hmm.
you mean, 8 people in one family? But then when the guy who raised me was one of 22, and your mother one of 14, I can see how they thought they were small. But that's just amazing to come from a big family. And
Mm-hmm.
I was two things I want to ask you about. One
Okay.
is as a reader. Dre and I have young people. My daughter's 16. What would Dr. T say to Loretta when she was 16? You need to read this book before you get out of high school, or you need to read this book because this is going to have such a profound impact. What would you say out of the myriad of books that you've read, you would suggest to a young African American woman, 16, 17, 18, that they need to read?
Okay. Seriously,
Mm-hmm.
one of the books I think that they need to read, even if they're reading snippets of it, and I'm just saying, is the Bible. I think that is important. I think that is one of the things that has grounded me and helped me in my ups and downs, my ebbs and flows of my life. We grew up in the church back then, and even now, the giving case students, but my friends that we grew up with, we still communicate through group chat or whatever, or someone is sick or passed or even some good stuff. We still communicate with that. You know, in church we did the speaking. Easter, everybody had a part, and you had to speak for the congregation. You had to sing, even if you didn't know a tune, but you had to stay up there in order to do that. So that would be one of the ones that, like I said, not to say you're supposed to read it straight through, but it bits and pieces of it, and I think that will help with your journey.
Now, the second question is similar in concept.
Okay.
You graduated from UPenn, Ivy League, one of the best in the world. Then you went to Howard, which is a HBCU, one of the best in the country and the world.
Yes.
What are your two things you would recommend to someone that's looking at going into academia? Meaning, would you recommend when they're trying to decide, do I do HBCU one level and then graduate school different, or it doesn't
Okay, and it's
matter?
interesting that you should ask me that because I have been trying to do that now that I'm here in Florida. Because,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just saying, most people, and they love it the same way I love my schools. They love FAMU. Okay, if I
Mm-hmm.
did not know that FAMU existed before, I'd know that
You
FAMU.
know now.
I was talking to my cousin who graduated from FAMU. I said, I've never heard of FAMU until he went there. We were from Pittsburgh. And I was like, I've
Oh,
never heard of FAMU ever. Up North, we never heard of that. I never heard of it. So,
me
Regional.
either. Me either, my brother. I'm telling you, when you want to get something done here in St. Pete, check the chart on when FAMU is having something because half the city is gone and you can get around and do whatever it is that you want to do. Okay? And there's no shame because when I talk about the University of Pennsylvania, I'm like, hey, y'all are hide up, I mean, y'all are, really enjoying your undergrad experience. I enjoyed mine as well. Okay?
So you would do it again.
Yeah, oh, definitely. So no, no, no question, no question. I would have utilized University of Penn better than I did. Even though he pissed me off, even though he did not, even though I was mad at how he said it, that white professor,
Yeah.
I understood now what he meant. Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
the answer to your question is that I would suggest that they have both. All right.
Mm.
Mhm.
Right now, what I have suggested to some of my sorors that have kids that are getting ready to go to college, I said, are y'all putting any of the Ivy League schools or the schools up north on your agenda? I said, just to think about. I
Mm-hmm.
said, they are offering grant money to families that are making under $150,000.
I saw that.
I said, so at least give your child some options. I'm a fan of Coach Prime. I loved him when he was a Dallas Cowboy fan, of which I am. And I love him as what he's been doing over in Colorado.
Yeah.
And I saw him one time when he said, now mind you, this man makes tons and tons of money. How
Yes.
he had never been skiing before. How he has never really saw the snow like he's
Right.
seen before.
Right.
He's from Florida. Okay.
Mm.
And it's just something about that people that are born in warm climates. I kind of get it now, but they don't
Mm-hmm.
like the cold climates. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
When
Yeah.
I go up north, I'm only staying for a few days.
That's
Okay.
right.
When that
Same.
plane says going to Tampa, I'm going.
Let's go.
I'm there. I'm there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm saying all that money he makes, and he has not had that experience. You know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He could stay. Well, no, he had not that experience.
Right.
So the answer to your question again is that I say to them, at least give your child or allow your child to have some options.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Go up there and look at it and see what can happen. Now given the political strifeness that's going on right now, I get it. But then I'm on this Zoom the other day, and they're saying that the the enrollment into HBCUs has just skyrocketed.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to have the capacity
Mm-hmm.
to take on, large numbers of enrollments right now.
Right.
Okay.
Mhm.
Right.
So, what is some other options that you can employ? Look at what those other predominantly white schools are doing. It doesn't have to necessarily be a Ivy League school, but because even that's getting pushed back with all drama
Mhm.
Yeah.
happening right
Yeah.
now. But look at that as an option. And then for advanced degrees or professional degrees or certifications, things like that, then can add a HBCU into your caliber or your portfolio of
Mhm.
educational attainment institutions.
So, Dr. T, prior to us moving into the final four, was there anything that we didn't ask you that you wanted us to ask you, or anything you wanted to talk about?
Well, yes. Okay. I have this concept of moving from invisible to visible. And sometimes people ask me, "Roberta, what does that mean?" Or Dr. T, what does
Mhm.
that mean? And I wanted them to really kind of take a look at moving out of your comfort zone and doing something that you haven't done before and then trying it. Even if it doesn't work, at least you could say, I've tried that
Mhm.
and and it doesn't work. Or I tried it and it's like, oh, that's interesting. That's fun. My I have two nieces, and I used to love to take them to different restaurants, and they would always go and order the same thing. And I'm like, try something different. I don't like that. But you haven't
You
tried
haven't
it.
tried.
Yes. So now we go to restaurants. Aunt Retta, we want this and we want that. And I'm like, what I'm saying? So, but even in life and moving from invisible to visible, and I want organizations to think they could still think in the box, But even if they're in the box, try different strategies to do things. Many organizations have different calibers of people, different genres of ages. So, what used to work before, even though it might have been successful, it might not work with this group of people or this, you know, uh, collaboration of people. So moving from invisible to visible, I think will also help as we negotiate relationships with people that don't look like us. I think that that is highly important. I really feel that until we can really embrace the true meaning of collaboration across many sectors, across many nationalities, we are not going to achieve all that we can achieve. And whether that's just
Mm.
enjoying life a little bit more, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Whether that is something that's just going to make you laugh. I read something on Facebook. Have you just had a moment, you drinking a cup of coffee and a memory comes across your face and it just makes you laugh and you're the only one in the room. And you're the only one in the room. Okay. I think to myself a lot. Okay. So that is what, and that's kind of went into my moving to St. Pete. My husband had passed. We
Mm.
had thought about moving to a warm environment, but it's like, okay, am I still going to do it? I don't have any kids. And, moving down here was like, okay, I'm gonna try to do this. So I would go downtown St. Pete, have dinner by myself to see how I feel comfortable being a Black
Mm.
woman
Mm.
in the areas that I like to go into that didn't have a lot of Black people there. And I just felt comfortable. So St. Petersburg now is my home. We are St. Pete. I love what our mayor is doing here. I'm an advocate of his philosophies and how he's trying to embrace things. And I want our Black and brown people to be able to do the same thing, to to move from the invisible to visible. Because when I first started telling people that I was moving to St. Pete from DC, they said, "Oh, wait, look, where is that?" Or it's not like
Why?
you know, oh, what about Tampa? And I'm like,
Right.
no, St. Pete is not like it was. It's not, St. Pete is not like it was even 5 years ago. Okay.
Mm.
It has grown phenomenally. And so
Mm.
now, Retta, or Low, or whatever they want to call me now. When
Mm.
we come down. I hear y'all doing
Ah,
this. I hear y'all doing that.
the word is out.
Yes. Oh yes. Oh yes. I mean, there's billboards on the subway in New York
Uh, oh
about
wow.
what's going on in St. Pete, Tampa area. You know what I mean? But
Okay.
again, it's taking that chance from moving from the invisible to visible. And I just want people to, I would just love to see people embrace that concept a little bit more and not just be stagnant to the status quo or something like that.
So as we move into the final four here, here's our first question.
Help me,
You
help
mentioned
me.
taking a chance. What's the biggest risk you've ever taken?
Moving to St. Pete by myself.
Okay.
Moving to
Okay.
All
St.
right.
Pete by myself.
Okay.
That was the
So,
biggest risk.
so what would be your second risk in life?
Going after those board of directors and just giving,
Ah.
I'm not, just finding another job, you know,
Awesome.
and
Yeah.
not go after that because going after that again that has shaped me to even now. I mean, because it let me know that I'm not going to have a group of people that's going to tell me no like that again.
Mm,
so,
Mm.
so thus I
okay.
have my own company that, but going after them such a young age was a big risk because it wasn't like I had all of I knew everything. And
Mhm.
in my book, I'm an author in a book called Sister Leaders, and we talk about those who mentor us in order to do what we do. And see, back then, I had no mentors. I
Mhm.
was the only woman administrator in the in the field of corrections in DC. So, when I go to meetings with all the other directors of halfway houses or whatever, I would be the only woman, let alone the only black woman. So, and then there was no one that really, I had no one to really mentor me in the art of business. Okay. I know my content.
Right.
Yeah, I know my content, but there's a business perspective that one should have. Okay. And I did not have that. And initially, now I know the power of collaboration. I know the power of partnerships. Now I seek out those, even though they might not seek out me. I seek them out. I go on what I call coffee dates with people because St. Pete has a plethora of just really quaint coffee shops and stuff here. So those that I need to talk to or want to glean information from or want them to get to know me, I ask, can we go on a coffee date? Go like 8:30, 9 o'clock, and we just do an hour before the day start. And that really works with people because they're not in the throes of what they're doing. They're fresh. Okay. Coffee or tea. That kind of sets your day. And that has been it has proved to be quite beneficial for me as I begin to learn more and more and more the culture of the South, the culture of St. Pete, which is which has different things done as compared to the North.
So I want to circle back to your bio because in your bio it talked about laughter. And what is something that never fails to make you laugh?
Okay. Number one is I like jokes. I love jokes. I love jokes. And I like when young kids, I mean really young, is going to come and do a joke on me. Like I said, I don't have any kids, but I have my friends' kids call me Aunt Lo, call me Aunt Retta. And they think I'm funny because I'm animated and stuff. And they want to say, Aunt Retta, I got one for you. I got one for you. And it'll be the corniest joke or whatever. But because they are they just want to make me laugh.
Yeah.
Give them what they want. And honestly, it makes me laugh too. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So
Sure.
I like that. And then the tears really come because I know they're trying so hard to make me laugh. So I'm giving them what they want, and I'm enjoying that little nugget of life as well. Yes,
All
Okay.
right.
yes,
I
yes.
like that.
What's one thing that you wish you were better at?
Discernment, discernment, and trust me, I'm getting better. I'm getting better. But discernment is so important to me now as I navigate my new journey of life. Okay. 2023 was a hell of a year, very bad, different medical things happening. So it almost took out a year of my life. And the concept of discernment and really understanding people by what they do and not necessarily by what they say has become so evident with me. And this is where when we talked about it earlier, my nuggets from the Bible. I'm really asking God to give me that power of discernment within me so that I am able now to listen more, understanding more, and not to say I have to agree with your behavior, but at least I will understand your behavior so that can govern my behavior. Okay. So and I just wish I had learned that earlier. I don't think that some of those negative things that I had experienced early in life, and you get what you need when you need it, but I wish I wish I was able to do that a little bit earlier than what I've been doing right now.
Okay.
So that would be my answer to your question.
No, I
Okay.
like that one. So for the final four question, anyone alive or dead, who would you want to spend 24 hours with and why? anyone on the planet, anyone alive or dead, that you want to spend 24 hours with, and why?
Okay, that's one of those questions that everybody always asks somebody, and I always have.
Really?
Oh
I
yeah.
thought I was original. I can change it up. let me change it up.
You just offended Smiley.
No, I have my discernment on that one. I'm discerning who
Oh,
you
I'm
taking that
so
response.
sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. My brother, please forgive me. But I know the answer to it. One would be Barack Obama, and the other one would be my husband.
Ooh.
And the reason why they almost, even though they're obviously two different people, but they're not two different people, is, both of those men are very learned men. I like engaging conversations. I like when people can tell me something that I don't know, something to make me introspective, but also, men that love to have fun, that love to crack jokes, even though they might be corny, like I said earlier, might be corny. I just love that. And I think now I am more appreciative of life. Okay. So I would want, and with them having different experiences of life, black man doing this, and that, or my husband who died so early. What is it about life that you want me to know, want me to embrace, want me to ensure that I get a little nugget here or there before my eyes close? So that would be my answer to your most thought of question that took me a long time to come up with an answer. So yes, that would be the answer.
All right.
Awesome.
So that's it. All right.
So
Yeah, sure. So I love St. Pete. I love Tampa. I love the South. Like you, I come from the North. I'm from Pittsburgh, so not too far from Baltimore. But
Yeah.
thank you for your words of wisdom and sharing your thoughts, your experiences with us on the Dre and Smiley Inner Circle podcast. We really, really appreciate you.
Well, again, I want to thank you because when I told Dr. Lee, that's one thing I'm trying to do. Give people their kudos, their flowers, or whatever you want to say while you're here. And we have been talking about business, of course, and then it goes off into another conversation. And everybody always asks somebody, what are you about or something? And he must have asked me something, what is it I would like to do?
you go.
And so when I told him about podcasts, I got one for you. I got one for you. It took me
we pay him
forever.
well to do that. We pay him well to do that.
Well, okay. Well, you must pay him real well because it took me forever to get an appointment. You all was all booked up. And I'm like, Jack, can I get in? So again, it's such a pleasure to talk to both of you all. I don't know why I was nervous. I really had a great time talking with you all,
Awesome.
and I appreciate you asking me those thought-provoking questions